cheap solar power, batteries, and electric vehicles are changing the transport and energy sector as we know. I bring in guests to this podcast who will help you with their ideas to navigate this energy transition. By the way, this episode is also available as a video on our YouTube channel. Just search Energypreneurs. Thank you for joining. Hi, Gavin. Good morning from Manila.
Good morning from Melbourne.
Yes, you're from Melbourne. It's, of course, your jacket is telling that.
Yeah, it's windy here and there's a cold snap that's just gone through.
So tell me about yourself. I know that you've been a lot of interesting stuff from the consumer side. Yes.
Yes. So I'm National Director of Energy Policy and Research at St Vincent de Paul, Australia. It's one of the big national charities here, welfare organisations. I'm a board member of Energy Consumers Australia, been in the energy space for too long to mention, sit on a number of industry customer panels and state and federal government panels as well. Yeah. A bit about everything, but not much about anything, I suppose, is at a high level.
Now, it's a big issue because consumers are those who can afford are buying the batteries, the electric car. And then if you want them to share or give access to their car for electricity and the market, the vehicle to grid and all of those, there need to be some fair share. Big ticket items right on your discussion these days.
Yes. So look, we probably take, rather than focusing on a particular technology, we tend to focus on frameworks that allow all appliances and technology to integrate within the energy system in a way that individual households can optimize or maximize what they want, whether that be services or price or whatever, at the same time, not pushing costs onto other households. So one of the challenges at the moment is the regulatory framework or the frameworks within the energy system is based on a vertically integrated one, big stuff, making kilowatts and megawatts and pushing it down to consumers as takers. Once you start to get the two-way flows going in, there's cross subsidies whizzing around. And that plays out particularly with the solar battery homes. We probably need to move to maximum demand pricing for networks, capacity pricing or something like that. At the moment, we're pricing on kilowatts, which means that those people that probably don't draw a lot of kilowatts from the grid but export a whole lot into it probably need to pay for the capacity they use. So that's just thinking of that technology. But then you've got hot water as a battery. Lots of poor households, which we're concerned about, have hot water storage. So there's opportunity for them to actually get different pricing for heating their hot water and supporting the system in the middle of the day. So as I said before, at a high level, we're trying to work on what is a robust framework that allows whatever technology to interplay in a meaningful way within the energy system to provide benefit and opportunity to individual households, but also provide benefit to the system as a whole and therefore all households.
For the hot water, there was this old tariff Y8 and Y6. I used to work with State Commission many years ago. Yeah. So those tariffs are still there?
They're still there, but they're analog. So they're on a controlled load, as the 6-hour or 8-hour heating, depending on the size of the unit. They're on a controlled load circuit and they'd switch on at 11 o'clock at night and just 7 in the morning for the 8 and all that sort of stuff. Maybe they need to be wheeled around to switch on in the middle of the day instead of charging
that's what you meant.
Off-peak rates. Those off-peak rates from 11 at night to 7 in the morning are probably peak rates now.
Peak rates now, yep.
So how do we shift the timing of those from 10 in the morning AM to 4 in the afternoon? By doing that, you probably charge them up for free. They would then support the excess solar that we've got so we don't have to spill it, which is inefficient economically. Also deals with them, helps deal with minimum demand problems that the market operator is experiencing. So it's about how do you create the framework so all appliances can have the opportunity, they don't have to, but have the opportunity to do what appliances do, make services for households at times that support the system as well. And how do we reward people for doing that? At the moment, a lot of the conversation tends to focus on bright, shiny new technologies, solar and batteries, but there's so many old technologies that all households have the opportunity to participate and support the system in energy transition.
Yes, absolutely. So you don't have to put on your dryer on a timer to come on 3 o'clock in the morning. You can do it in the middle of the day right now. No, I'm just
Yeah,
joking.
yeah,
That's what we used to do, right, with Y6 and
yeah.
Y8.
Yeah, no, and that's right. And again, if you have a look at the technology advances, most homes have got internet. If you buy any new appliance, you can program them remotely to switch on and off. So again, if you've got the right pricing frameworks at the background and the right supports from retailers and digitization, we believe there's a lot of opportunity for households to get a different value proposition and a different price proposition for them personally, but also one that supports the energy transition, as I said before, which is really important given the constraints and the delays that we're seeing in the large scale investments, transmission and generation that connects to those transmission systems and the problems that we've got there in Australia.
Yeah, so in a way to rephrase what you just mentioned for these appliances. So if someone runs their slab heating in the middle of the day, heat it up
Yep.
on a winter day, where the next door neighbors are spilling solar going nowhere. So that solar effectively through the grid and come and hit the slab. So effectively, you don't need that extra delta demand during nighttime. So that's become a societal battery.
Yeah, so build flexibility in the system to match the change in the nature of the generation that's in the system. I mean, we used to do it, as you said, 50 odd years ago, when we had, because rather than venting steam on coal plants in the middle of the night, because there was no consumption there, how do we actually find some consumption? Because that's economically inefficient to do that. It's just generations changed and we happen to be awash with stuff in the middle of the day.
Yeah, and for free.
Yeah. And that supports the system, supports voltages, less ancillary services, all those sorts of things. And it also, as I said before, if we can dial those sorts of conversations up now, it actually supports the delay that's happening in the big builds. Yeah. Which is good for everybody as well, because you don't push ahead mindlessly building things at an ever increasing cost. If we can slow those things down a little bit, the cost curve possibly might change to look better and to be better because we've lifted up the consumer energy resources to distributed energy resources. We've moved them forward in the queue.
Yeah, for my international audience, do you want to also explain how consumer voices are represented in the regulatory decision and policy decisions in Australia?
Yeah, no, I certainly can do that. It's a little bit different depending on where you are in the supply chain. From a retail perspective, I know of 3 large retailers, the incumbent retailers, AGL, Energy Australia and Origin Energy have customer councils. I'm fortunate enough to sit on all 3 of those. We meet with the senior executive. We talk about issues and there's a diverse group on there, some small business, some larger businesses, some financial counsellors that have particular interests, share views, pain points, regulatory interventions, stuff. And in fact, I'm at AGL at the moment coming from a meeting with some of their senior executive about energy transition and what future retail products might be appearing in Australia in the not too distant future. For networks, distribution, gas and electricity and transmission networks, the AR has a requirement through what's called the Better Resets Handbook, where there is a requirement on them as part of the regulatory process to engage with customers, community and consumers in putting together the proposal, the regulatory proposals to the regulator. While we can't really do prudent and efficient, that's a job for the regulator. What is a prudent and efficient investments? Consumers are really good at identifying the value that they want. So the engagement really does lift up what do consumers value. And that's across all the networks in the NEM. And you can see different value propositions depending on where you are. So with climate change, some communities in some networks are really want more spend on resilience because that's really important to them. Others, city built up areas where, reliability of supply is not such a big deal. They're looking for more things like their value proposition for them might be more plug and play network, my words, where they can pole top EV chargers or those sorts of things. So you start to lift up different value propositions in different communities and different customer classes within it. So that's to the networks. With the wholesale one, I suppose there's the Nelson Review, wholesale NEM review that's going on at the moment. I'm involved with that as well, about a consumer perspective about how wholesale market redesign might support ultimate consumer outcomes or not. So it's giving a consumer lens in there as well. So I suppose it's a feature of the Australian regulatory energy framework where, particularly in a time of transition, you bring consumers in because we've got resources and we've got assets that are energy assets that need to be integrated into the energy system. Where, I did a paper a couple of years ago. If you did a mind game, if we had 5 million consumers, households in Australia, and we've got a lot more than that, just say 5 million, spend $50,000 in the next 5 years on energy assets, and that could be getting off gas and going electric or electric vehicles or renovating their home and doing all that. That's $250 billion worth of energy assets that are in homes across Australia. You could argue that we're probably the single biggest investor in the energy market. That's being subsidised by state and federal governments through those appliances are being subsidised. We are weaved into the energy system and we're a participant in it rather than a taker of it. And that's why those foundations, those conversations are changing.
250 billion, that's a lot because the whole of Victoria and power assets were privatized for 23 billion.
Check. Do the numbers. 5 million households, $50,000 each. Yeah. It's a lot. When you put it like that, you think, my goodness, look at all those energy assets. Now, a lot of those are going to be new load. So that's good. So there's opportunity for private equity in there to provide service. But at the same time, we can support private equity if we charge up at particular times. They get more efficiency. So that's a good thing. And at the same time, we're producing energy through solar in our roofs or our solar battery combos at the back end. So we can be competitors as well. But given the physics of the whole thing, that supply and demand has to be balanced. We need to work together.
And it no longer has to be balanced fully because of the batteries.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you don't want it unorchestrated. Working together, there's efficiencies for everybody. And that's what I think, that's where the conversation's going. There's a lot in it for everybody here. How do we make sure that everybody fits together as best we can?
Yeah, and then Essential Services Commission, I remember long time back, Karen Chalmers and Jeff, my colleagues, used to work together. Oh, you remember those? There was a big industry association or consumer associations that we had to support. I forgot the name of those. And out of that process, eventually the ombudsperson got created in Victoria as well. So all those systems are still in place, right?
Yes, I was around there when we put together the articles for the Ombudsman scheme. Interestingly, the Ombudsman scheme in Victoria, there's other ones in New South Wales, Queensland, other jurisdictions. One of the big conversations going around there, if consumers are part of the energy system and their appliances, solar battery and whatever, does the Ombudsman deal with disputes around solar installers or battery installers? So that's a live conversation at the moment. So from when you were around, it was mainly about retail billing, but the scope's changed quite a lot.
Yes, it is quite interesting. And I'm sure the choice, the consumer groups comes into this also because they evaluate batteries and solar, right?
Yep. Yes, there's lots of consumer issues from appliance standards, integration into the energy system, billing, hardship programs. Do you offer hardship programs to people on EVs? When you electrify everything, where the consumer protections and where are production obligations and how does that whole framework fit together? And that's a really important thing to work out as we go through the energy transition. It is very different.
Yeah, I was also quite surprised that the battery subsidy that has come from federal government, that's not income tested because all those previous state-based battery support, your interest-free loan, and that all were income and asset tested, no?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of people that have raised concerns around should it be income tested or some other sort of eligibility criteria or criteria that allocate those resources. So some have said geospatially, it'll be particular ways. I've publicly come out and on national ABC saying maybe there should be obligations on these assets that they have to be a VPP. They're being subsidised by taxpayers or energy consumers. And these consumers that are fortunate enough to have them Should they be required to give a payback to the energy system? Me as the investor, as a household that's paying for those. And again, there are conversations that are going around about what are the connection agreements, what are obligations, if any, what are standards, what are the interoperabilities. It pops up not only in the solar battery conversation, we're talking about the emergency backstop, inverters being able to be controlled by the market operator. Without that functionality within it, those inverters will be switched off and you won't be able to export into the system. So there's all these sorts of frameworks that we're not making up, that we're struggling is the wrong word, that we're trying to get our head around about how do you get it right first time? Because you see, you only get one go at this. So there's a lot of us all trying to do the best we can to make sure we get the foundations as right as we can, as early as we can. So it's as seamless as possible as we transition through to net zero.
Absolutely. Now I know. We met during Robin Davey and Karen Chalmers days. I was the pricing guy sitting on the side.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Paul was technical. I was the pricing guy and Karen was the consumer.
I remember. Yep.
Yeah. Now I look at the name. I said, I know that name so well.
There you go. I'm still around like you.
We obviously have changed, but that's good. Oh, fantastic. Because one thing, what I really intrigue and really appreciative of on the consumers. From Victoria, I moved to Asian Development Bank. I worked for 22 years. In any other consumer bodies, I worked in Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Central Asia. There is not a single knowledgeable person like you. Technical knowledge, I'm really admiring because most of the customers know what they have been told, because they really don't have the technical ability, because you have been in the game for long enough. I think that's all. Of course, you have a personal interest and understanding, but you also been on the place for a long time. So I think that may have given you really knowledge of a CEO running a power company.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it was a unique feature within Victoria. So when I left university, I'm a social scientist by training. So that's my background. Under the Kane Kerner government, the energy minister there, David White, this is going back in time, they actually funded a community advocacy organisation called the Energy Action Group, which was there to put the voice of consumers to the State Electricity Commission and the Gas and Fuel, and most importantly, the Department of Industry and Technology, which was the policy-making body that looked over the energy industry in Victoria. And that has been in play in one way or another ever since I left uni. So it was part of the, shall we say, the policy infrastructure or architecture in Victoria. That was copied by other states in the NEM over time, but they're newer. So there's capacity in every jurisdiction in Australia to do this. Most of them are a little bit younger than me, so they don't remember the old stories that we're talking about now. But yeah, the consumer, shall we say, knowledge is quite deep here. And going back to the Better Resets handbooks and the regulators' requirement on networks to engage, it's actually building out capacity as well. So local governments are starting, they've got their net zero targets and they talk to ratepayers in their local government. So there is a rich conversation happening in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's not just the regulatory requirement, because lot of regulatory jurisdiction has those requirement copied paste from other jurisdiction when they develop. I think it's, as you exactly mentioned, it's just the culture of bringing consumer in. An organization like yourself set up a very long time back. I think that continued. And then, of course, if the regulatory framework is there, it helps you to flourish. But again, you need knowledgeable person like yourself. Remember, during the first price review, even with John Tamlin, we posted out 350,000 pages. We said everything in the public domain. Was it you or someone said, yes, but this is mumbo jumbo. Give us a consultant. And I think we ended up hiring Jeff Washington. You remember that, right?
Yeah, no. So basically there's resourcing. I get resourced to support the conversation and be a participant in the conversation. And ultimately, I think that give comfort to government that the policy proposals that are being developed have a little bit of sense testing, that consumers want that value. As I said before, we can't do prudent and efficient. I don't want to, but we can talk about value and what we believe is good for us and what we need. It's also been quite, I think it's been really useful, particularly when private equity comes in. It gives government comfort that private equity actually really is listening to the consumer, not just the shareholder. And also, as I said before, also for governments who may or may not trust their own organisations, their statutory authorities, it also puts a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of light in there. It's how you do it. We're all respectful. It's how you do it, being respectful and understanding everybody's position, interests. And I find in the energy system, at least where I work in Australia, everybody really wants the right outcomes. We might not all agree on what's the most important outcome, but overall, we are all there for the long-term interests of consumers, which is a good place to be.
Amazing. So what are the big ticket items?
The big ticket items for myself at the moment is, I think there's three sorts of things. Network tariff reform. How do we get cost reflectivity in network tariff? At the moment, I'm a solar household. I'm being subsidised to the tune of about $200 a year by non-solar households. So we've got to stop that because that undermines the energy transition. We get up to around 35% solar penetration. It means that 65% of the households are paying more than they need to pay to subsidise me. And that's inequitable. It will ultimately undermine the transition because there's this fewer and fewer people doing more and more of the heavy lifting. So we need to get that sorted. We need to change the retail offering, in my view. At the moment, we're selling kilowatts. We've always sold kilowatts based on the metering type. As a household, I don't want a kilowatt. I can't do anything with a kilowatt. If I stick my tongue in the plug on the wall at my home and switch it on, a kilowatt will kill me. In fact, I don't want kilowatts. What I do want is I want hot water. I want heating. I want cooling. I want lighting. I want services. I want the services that make my house a home. So how do we move from invoicing kilowatts to the energy industry selling services or delivering services to household? So that's probably moving into more subscription type modeling where, a bit like insurance or a bit like council rates, those sorts of things, annual fixed pricing. And if you offer up your inverter to the system and they can switch on and off your inverter or your hot water system, as I said before, all those sorts of things, I still get the services at home, my hot water, when I'm on demand.
You do whatever you want.
I still get all the things I want. But by offering up those services to my agent, whether that be a retailer or other, those services then can support the system and I would get a return for that and the system gets a benefit from it. So moving to that sort of services, energy as a service. So that's occupying my mind at the moment. Then you've got the complementary measures. How do we deal with consumer protection and green scheme cost allocations, which should you have concessions, energy concessions, for example, should they apply to electric vehicle charging? Probably not, in my view, but other people say it should. So unless we get that, it could reduce the effect of the current social supports that are there because if you electrify everything, should those social supports be for those things or should something else? So you've got those social policy things that need to be considered. Similar with the environmental policy things that wash through bills. We've got uplifts for small scale renewables. We've got levies on consumption for underwriting appliances that governments provide, all those sorts of things. What's the best way to allocate those costs? And again, if you're doing it on consumption, I'm a solar household. I'm not paying my fair share whack for these public policy subsidies for appliances that go into houses. I'll be a beneficiary, but I'll never pay back the benefit I've got. Other households that don't have that opportunity end up picking it up. So it's all about getting the foundations and the frameworks right.
Yeah, the old pensioner discount still in Victoria, like the winter energy.
It's percentage based. For electricity, there's a 20-year, 17.5% all year round discount that's applied for healthcare card and pension cards. Now, the challenge with that is once you add cars into that and it's coming out of your meter, those concessions end up applying to charging up a vehicle. There are other concessions that were designed for vehicles, registration discounts and all those sorts of things. So effectively, if you're up in Treasury, you're going, well, is that really what the concession was designed for?
But if it's a pensioner car registered in his or her name, they do 10 kilometers a day or 35 kilometers.
They could be going around Australia. So it's the conceptual thing is it essential or not essential? So the concessions were designed to deliver essential energy, electricity to homes, so they could heat and cool and you wouldn't have health impacts and all that. Then given we've got a public transport system and for seniors, it's free on the weekend and all that sort of stuff, do we then end up putting an energy concession onto electric vehicles. Now, these conversations are things that need to be had or is there better ways to do that? Should there, and all that sort of stuff? Everything's changing.
Everything is changing. If they give access the vehicle to grid, maybe they provide a societal value and other things. Give away free light bulbs, CFL in Flinders Street Station 10 years ago. Why can't you provide almost like a free car as the car prices are coming down, because it provides you other societal benefits? Of course, the numbers are big.
Yeah, no, that's right. But then there would be connection agreements about the use of that car that says you can have that and there'll be some rebate or discount to you because you qualify, because you're a pensioner. But the obligation is it has to be vehicle to grid to support the system.
Something like that.
Yeah. But that's all the conversations that we're having at the moment about where do these things fit? How do they fit? So these are all frameworks and foundations. So there's lots of policy conversations going on, lots of people way smarter than me trying to work out how do we do this and how do we do it as quickly as we can and get as much right as we can, because the longer you let it happen organically, the more things that you don't think of, problems and opportunities arise. Coming back before, the amount of cross subsidies we've got in the system because of not thinking about solar is a problem in Australia, in my view.
It was when it did deliver the outcome. Look what happened, 1.6 kilowatt per capita. In 2008, there was nothing. So these subsidies have accelerated, provided.
Yeah, it's been successful, but then you ask who was doing the subsidising and you go, really? Is it people that are in rental, young people in rental properties who are not participants? They're young, are underwriting and subsidising old people like me, who's a homeowner, to put solar on my roof. My wealth, which was built on carbon, is just being underwritten and made greater by younger people who are trying to build wealth for their future. So there is this economic question, an intergenerational question that's in this transition as well that we need to be mindful of, because if we overload these young people that are going to have kids and young families soon, hopefully for them, and that's good for the economy, but they don't have the resources to do that effectively, or they haven't been able to save up, that actually is a kick in the pants later on for the overall economy, which impacts me. So there is this temporal issue here about how the transition, who pays and when within the transition. But that's a broader macroeconomic conversation that's floating around in the background as well.
How do you keep your energy up? How do you keep that up? What else do you do outside work? I've seen you from a distance many times now, I remember, but how do you do that?
It's exciting. It's good. There's great people. I'm talking to you. We're having a wonderful conversation. There's great people. You can bring optimism to it. I'm quite optimistic as a personality. I think doing nothing's not an option, and I'm optimistic. And as you talk about the personalities when you worked in Australia, there's good people everywhere. But maybe it's my personality type, but why wouldn't you be optimistic?
Yes, absolutely. Why not? What do you do outside work when you're not working? What do you do for fun or relaxation?
I used to ride vintage motorcycles, camping, just totally not energy stuff. Anything but not energy.
So
it freshens up. So
you're not converting any vintage motorcycles into electric yet?
No, not yet. I'm carbon negative as it is at the moment. I export more than I consume and I net out. So my guilty pleasure would be riding around on 45-year-old Ducatis occasionally, not often, but occasionally. Yeah.
Very nice. All the knowledge that you have, not only for the jurisdiction Victoria, but globally, these issues are going to come up almost like a future, because if I'm in the Philippines, if you go talk to a consumer advocate, they will not have, with all due respect, any clue what you're talking about, because electric vehicles are coming slowly, rooftop solar, not enough yet. So are you thinking of writing a book or something?
No, I'm dyslexic. I tend to talk a lot, as you picked up.
You can talk to an AI. You can talk to an AI. AI will write.
No, I've got that. No, I think things are moving that fast. So I think it's all about conversations. And what I'd encourage whoever's listening to this, reach out. If there's people that are interested in what's going on, have a chat with them. Everybody share their knowledge. Things are moving so quickly. The more I'm in this, the more I know what I don't know. And it's a lot that I don't know. but there's a whole lot of good people that know what I don't know. I don't need to know everything. And working together, like the energy system, it only works when it all works together on the same thing. No, that's the physics of it all. That's the engineering of it all. And given that we're moving to consumer energy resources, unless we involve them all as well, it won't work. So it's just an extension of what the system's always been, but there's just more conversations now with people. And for me, I think, how do I leave a legacy, if might be the question? It's about introducing people to my networks. So it's about handoff, and it's about introducing people to the next generation. I'm in my 60s. So for me, and we're all leaving, you and me, we're leaving, but we know the younger people, and how do we link up the younger people and keep the conversation going? And it's going to be left in good hands.
Thank you. How does people reach you?
If you jump into any search engine, I'm pretty sure you put me Australia, I'm pretty sure you'll find me. You found me. I'm not that hard to find, I don't think.
Where are you in Melbourne? Which part of Melbourne you are in right now?
I'm down in Docklands at the moment at the AGL building.
Nice.
As I said before, I've just had a chat with them and we're talking about the consumer energy resources. There's a work stream coming out of the Climate and Energy Council, the Ministerial Council, which is meant to wrap up at the end of this year, which is really important. So that's what we were talking about. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember when Docklands came up, was it City Power's Greenfield or part of the regulatory? That was a big thing, right?
Yep. I don't know whether you've seen it now. It's just high rises.
I was in Melbourne. I go a couple of times every year. So
Yes.
I have my house in Doncaster, so I go back.
Oh, you're out in the suburb, but down in the city here, it's all coffee shops and puffer jackets in the middle of winter.
No, but it's nice. I still go to that SCCV building on 15 William Street. That area has changed. Other side where the casino used to be nothing.
Yeah, definitely. I remember 15 William Street, the blue room and the pink room, I think they were, where we used to meet with the executive there and showing my age again.
Thank you so much, Gavin.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Is there anything else you'd like to highlight?
No, I think that'll be enough. I could keep going on. Talk underwater with mouthful of golf balls, shall I?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Energypreneurs.
If you enjoyed this, don't forget the full video is on YouTube. Just search Energypreneurs.
Thank you. See you next time.